Hey there, folks. I'm Matt Hansen,
And I'm John Johnson.
and you're listening to Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, the podcast where we discuss favorites we've reread, both classic and new comics we want to read, and everything else in between.
And here's the comic we picked this week.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of
Planes, Trains, and Comic Books.
Today, we are reading, or we read, a very fucked up book, a very true crime book that was called Did You Hear What Gein Done? And boy, did this live up to what I hoped it would.
Yes.
We haven't done a true crime book for a while. What was the last one we did?
The Axeman?
Yeah, the Axeman. So, before that, we try to pepper these in every now and then. There's not a whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
There was one that we're going to do for Halloween called My Friend Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah.
That was the one we were thinking about earlier. So I think we're going to put that in for actual Halloween because that's this fucked up story.
Yeah, and all this month we're definitely going to do some creepy, either creepy fun or creepy actual
episodes.
So
and we're going to pepper in some extra things.
Yeah, we have a couple. We're not going to do the big long 13 because that was a lot of
I was going to kill John again if he made me do 13.
But we might have something else with 13. Wink, 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 wink. If you know what I'm talking about.
In the title.
It
satisfies John 13.
Yeah, there you go. But this one was Matt's idea. And I was like, that works. We'll do it. So yeah, we got some fun stuff coming this month. Some creepy, spooky stuff. So keep an eye. But man, did you hear what Gein done?
This is one of the most fucked up books I've read for a comic, especially.
Yeah.
And if you don't know who Gein is a real life, true, to reality serial killer from the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
And is it 50s or 60s? I think it's 50s.
It's 50s.
And basically, he was the inspiration for such things as Psycho, the movie Psycho, and the idea of this guy has his dead mother in his house or whatever. Spoilers for Psycho. If you haven't seen that movie, that's 40 or 50 or actually 60 years old now.
Yeah,
so.
if you haven't seen an Alfred Hitchcock film at this point, I'm sorry if we've spoiled it.
Yeah, sorry, spoilers. And then spoilers for the other ones. He's the inspiration for Leatherface from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and he's also the inspiration for Buffalo Bill in Silence of the Lambs. So, and I would say even Red Dragon. I would say he could have been the inspiration for that guy too.
Yeah.
Just all of Thomas Harris's books, they're all about him.
Yeah, I mean, and you will see as we go through this, you will see all of those, oh, yeah, I can see that. Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah.
So
this book is written by Harold Schechter and Eric Powell, and I'm going to say specifically this book is probably more so the words of Harold Schechter are borrowed and put on this page by Eric Powell. And then Eric Powell wrote some more stuff for it because Harold Schechter is like a biographer who did a bunch of biographies about Gein. So I think he just read those, Eric Powell did, and then used that for this text in his graphic novel. So
I will say it's cool to see Eric Powell's art because I know that he's done The Goon.
Yes.
And I know that you really enjoyed that. I
love that book.
Yeah, we haven't gotten to it yet. Yeah. But I've seen a little bit of art, so it was cool to see that style more here. Yeah, and
he's got a cartoony-ish style, but when it gets creepy, it gets fucking creepy. I turned a page and on this book and I was like, oh my God. There were some really, really Jesus Christ scenes in this book.
Yeah.
Not for kids. Not for your little ones.
No.
For sure.
Even if your dad watches serial killer and
I would give my dad.
Murder. No. I'm saying even if that kid is sitting there when his dad is watching serial killer shows and
that's for TV though. They don't show stuff in that.
They show some stuff in
well, that's true actually.
I say that because
Forensic Files did show dead bodies.
Exactly. I say that because as a child, I'm sitting here. My dad loves, and that's partly why I have a love for true crime as well now. But yeah, my dad would watch, Forensic Files, Dr. G, pretty much every documentary came out on different serial killers. So I had a little bit of background. You know, I don't. There's only certain things that you take in when you're younger.
Right.
But
yeah, no, I more recently got into true crime like in the last 5 years or whatever, just because of the boom.
Yeah,
and then like I listen to a lot of podcasts, so then just naturally it'd be like, hey, you should listen to this, and then like, oh, okay, and I tried that out. I'm like, oh, it was a good story or whatever. So got into that a little bit more. I'm not obsessed like some people are. Like there's people who are really, really into true crime pod. I have to take breaks from that.
Oh yeah.
Basically, it will eventually make you think everybody is a killer. Like you're like, I don't want to go outside of my house because there's serial killers everywhere.
It's seriously, they'd be like, it's always the quiet ones. It's like, well, now I don't want to.
I know a lot of quiet people.
I know a lot of quiet people.
Yeah. So, but anyway, this book is about, you know, I don't want to say he's not one of the first serial killers ever. Obviously, there's like Jack the Ripper and stuff, but this is one of the first like big American serial killers. We had H.H. Holmes, you know, and then took a break for a long time, and then this guy, you know, like so. This was, and also this is in the middle of like a farm town, and it's just he's unassuming. Everybody thought he was like a gentle person.
Oh, he's a nice guy.
He's a little slow, but
a little quiet, but it's fine.
And for this to happen is like, what the fuck? Like in the middle, it's not, you know, everybody thinks violence happens in the big city, you know, kind of thing, but actually it's the quiet guy down the street in your little neighborhood. Mm-hmm. So this book starts off with a funny like explanation from what's his name? With the director that you said? Hitchcock. I like his drawings of Hitchcock's face. He just does it from the bottom down, like from the nose down. But you know who it is because of the double chin. So, he's doing like talking about how, oh yes, we used him for Psycho and blah blah blah. Like he's giving an interview for Psycho's release, and then we cut to the day that they found the bodies. I guess like they were digging up the cemetery that was next to his house to figure out how many bodies he actually took out of the ground and how many were ones that he murdered, kind of thing. And so it's in Plainsville, Wisconsin is where this happened, or Plainsfield, Wisconsin, sorry. And it's 1957 is the year that this happened. So and it starts off with these guys digging people up, and there's like the groundskeeper of the cemetery. He's like, I swear no one could have dug up any bodies. I'm here all the time. I'm awake. I'm looking at everybody walking in and out. There's no way anybody could have. And then they dig up a grave, and they open it, and dear God, like it's an empty grave. It's an
empty grave.
Yeah.
And also, they were like, yeah, he's digging, and he only digs like 2 feet down before he hits the coffin. They're like, oh, okay, well that's weird.
Yeah, that's odd. And then there's a crowbar inside of the coffin as they open it. So, okay, weird. Obviously, someone got into something. So, and then it cuts to like his childhood, which I really like this book because whenever you hear about Ed Gein from like true crime shows, it just skips all his. They're just like his mother was abusive, and then he murdered 2 people and skinned them and wore them as fucking lamps and all this weird shit. And like, but what you don't usually get is like a full backstory of his childhood and exactly what he went through, and it's weird, it's creepy. It's like, I know there's other kids that probably went through the same thing that didn't become serial killers.
Yeah.
Like his brother. His brother went through the same thing with his mom. I didn't even know he had a brother until I read this. But his brother named Henry, they live with the mom, Augusta, and the dad, George. And the mom, Augusta, is quite a person. I don't know what you call her. A monster? We'll call her a monster. She is just super, super religious. To the point where she's like, that every girl I see is a whore. And like, don't be unclean like them whores.
It's very much in the vein of like Bobby Boucher's mom in
yes.
But
yes, except not
Waterboy.
Yeah, not in a comedy way.
No. She's because she's very well. First off, she wanted a girl. She's like, I prayed for a girl, and then got him, and she's like, oh god damn it, another boy.
Yeah.
And then she like you said, to the extent of like,
because boys are evil because they have that thing between their legs. And and it's a.
But
also, girls are evil because they
because they
tempt. Yeah, they're all whores and they tempt men.
Yeah,
weak men.
Oh, a boy's place is by his mama's side, and that's it.
Yes. So very much so. That is how she kept him. So I don't know if she thought she failed with Henry or something, but like Henry seemed to be, while realizing he was in a abusive household or something, was just like, I'm gonna get out of here as soon as I can, and like that was his thing.
Yeah.
And but Ed being a little, I don't know if, I mean, he had possibly some mental issues or something.
They say so he had one droopy eye.
Yeah.
A little.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if they're implying that there was maybe a little bit of,
yeah, maybe he was a little slow or low IQ or something, but that might be why he just believed his mom on everything. Like whatever she said went. He was a mama's boy, and when I say mama's boy, he was always next to her, always ready to be helping her and everything. But even though she would like yell at him and shit though. So like she would be like, "You're fucking terrible. Take those scissors and cut off your, hold it in between the scissors." And she's talking about his dick. Hold your dick in between the scissors and like, do you want me to cut it off? And that's like literally, that's something that actually happens in Red Dragon.
Yeah.
Where the grandma or whatever that he has to live with is like, you're dirty boy, whatever. So
that's
like,
right. Oh man.
Yeah. And so like, that's actually in this book. Like she actually talked about cutting it off with scissors and all that stuff. So, there's that. And then also the dad is very, weak-willed and passive. So he hates all these people hate their life.
Yeah.
They hate their marriage, but it's kind of like we just have to stay married for some reason.
Yeah, he basically just drinks to get through stuff. He becomes an alcoholic.
Yeah.
And it's sad because you see like they're always fighting, and then like when the dad like leaves or goes to get a drink or whatever, the mom's like, "Let's sit and pray that the Lord kills your dad."
Yeah.
Please kill him.
Please kill our dad.
Yeah.
God, man in the sky, please kill our dad.
Please kill our dad.
That's super fucked up. And then one thing though is she had like a mind for, like, she was always taking care of number one. So like the dad would be like, we're gonna open a business, and then she'd be like, yeah, I'll fill out all the papers for you, honey, and mail them and everything, and she'd put her name on the deeds and like make sure George didn't own shit. He'd be like, yeah, I own a farm, and he'd be like, no, you don't, you son of a bitch. Like, I own a farm, but he doesn't know that. He never bothers to like check any of her fucking work or anything on like any of the papers. Like, so like the house didn't belong to him at all. The farm or the grocery store or whatever that they own didn't belong to him at all. And so like basically they made their living at first at like a grocery store, and some of the first trauma he sees is like obviously his parents fighting and stuff. He also sees like his mom like butcher pigs and stuff, which I guess probably had an effect on him somewhat. So
yeah,
if not at least to go, because that's probably common back then. You're gonna see animals get butchered more often.
Yeah, but
to know how to do it from a young age, you're like, okay, that's how you peel the skin off of something or whatever, So,
and his dad did like some leather working and tanning.
Yeah. So there's that, and then
but his first really big one was when he started going to school, because he started going to school, and he got made fun of for having a droopy eye, and like he didn't really have any friends. He had one kid that was kind of nice to him, Jack, and they would kind of like have nice small talk, and he came home one day, he's like, "Mama, I might have a friend, Jack," and she's like, "Another boy," and from like some other family.
He's from this family, and that family's whores or whatever.
Yeah.
They're all whores.
They're whores. You ain't being friends with him.
Yeah. So like that, they have a daughter, and she's a whore, and you shouldn't cohort with them.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And so yeah. Anyway, he's trying to find his place. He has to kind of ignore that kid now because he takes his mom's word for it. And so that kid's like, "Hey, want to hang out?" And then he just ignores him. And then there's some kids, some bullies that have been picking on him the whole time. They're like, "Hey, you want to hang out today?" And he's like, "Okay," like new friends. They're finally being nice to me. And they invite him into a barn, and apparently they rape him, is what is implied in this. They don't show it or anything.
No, but they're saying like
they show them being like, "Hey, come into the barn," and then they show the barn doors closing ominously, and then he zooms out really far from the barn, so it looks super spooky. And then we see Ed crying and pulling up his pants in the next scene or whatever. So I'm assuming that's what happens. He does not tell her, I don't think, that it happened, though.
No, he doesn't, at least not
He just goes to his mom, and he's crying, and she just pours him, I don't know if she pours him a glass of milk or just herself some water or something. She pours a drink. Probably for herself, if I had to guess, because she doesn't give a fuck.
And he's only like 7 or 8 here at this time.
Yeah.
Like
this is like not kindergarten, but grade school.
Yeah.
So not the best years, you know. But then, you know, as he grows up, he goes fishing and stuff, and he kind of gets a little bit of enjoyment from seeing, if not pain, the guts, like the stuff inside of stuff. So like if he's gonna put a hook through something or whatever for fishing, he's gonna put it through the eyeballs or whatever. Like you know, or like
his brother's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Nothing. It slipped. It went to the wrong part."
Yeah. And the fish was alive and stuff, so it's like you're gonna blind the fish.
Exactly. So you're already seeing like that's another one of those quote unquote signs, right? Animal abuse, torture.
Yeah. And then he also, when he's a kid, gets introduced to like those. I guess at the time they would be considered fairly risque, but like the salacious crime magazines, like Boudoir Crime or whatever, where it's like there's always a damsel who's got lingerie that gets killed in them, and they're just basically like risque stories that involve like gumshoes and dames, we'll call them for the time, but like, you know, like Dick Tracy or something, where you got Madonna, who's like the seductress lady in trouble or whatever, and you know,
some large bosom lady comes in and she's like, "Oh my goodness, I need help.
Yeah,
I'm on the case, ma'am."
Yeah.
You know,
well, I'll see what I can do. I'll see if I can help you with a couple of those problems. And so he gets kind of like, he gets introduced to those things, and that's like basically becomes his porn through his life, because later on when they search his house, they find a shit ton of those magazines. And I mean, I can only guess that is maybe where he gets his possibly ideas for how to kill someone, and then also like
it definitely
the excitement from crime.
I'll say the excitement, and also like by studying those kind of things, because you kind of hear him they kind of talk about later. He's like, "Oh, well, did you hear about," like he also would see other, like, and look and read about other murders and be like, "Oh, he did this wrong." Yeah. And be like, why would you even know that? He's like, "Oh, just interesting. I don't know."
Yeah, it's food for thought.
Yeah. So it's kind of like he also kind of like studied and took some of that. So that's another thing. Is like he's a little off, but he is like he's keeping a hold of some very weird information for sure.
Yeah. And then in let's see, what is it? March of 1940, the dad dies. George dies, and it seemed like it was natural, or whatever. Like it wasn't. Yeah. It wasn't like she killed
on
him.
April Fool's Day.
Yeah, and it was April 1st.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah. That's all. No, it was only because he was like, "Oh, he would die on Fool's Day."
that fool. Yeah, and so you know, Ed is with the mom. They're at the funeral and stuff, and he gets to see like, the whole burial process and exactly what happens, and yeah, I mean. There's just like this whole beginning part of his life is just him growing up. They show like, this is funny because I could totally see this back in the day. You have he's found science books now because he's like older. He's like in his late teens, early 20s now, and so he's like able to go to the library and stuff if there is a library. He's at least able to get science books where they show like the female reproductive system, and that's what he jerks off to because. It's like, and it makes me laugh because if you think of like Freaks and Geeks, we're like, it looks like a cow's head or whatever. It's like it's not even like an anatomical drawing from the outside. It's like
it's just the inside.
It's just the inside. So he's literally jerking off to the insides of people or whatever.
Yeah,
which can't be good. So that was creepy. That was a creepy part in this where I was like, ew. He's like, I don't know.
And all this time, his brother is like getting more and more like. You know, I don't know about you, but I'm gonna leave.
Bob's
we need to get
crazy.
out of here.
We need to get out of here. I guess he never really saw how crazy Ed was or whatever. Maybe he just thought he was quiet and was like okay or like better with mom, and maybe that's all he thought.
And Ed's like, "No, we gotta stay with mama. Place by your, boy's place is by his mama's side.
Yeah. So when Henry, his brother, is like, "Hey, I'm gonna leave pretty soon," an event happens where I guess they're doing a burn. It's 1944 now.
There's a fire near the marsh,
but they're doing it's a fire that they're supposedly had started to like do a burn around their property to make it so it wouldn't be fire, so it would have less of a fire chance. And apparently it got out of hand, and magically Ed got out, but Henry didn't.
Yeah, there are different accounts of the story,
from Ed.
Yeah.
Ed literally gives multiple accounts of what happened that are all kind of not lining up with each other, but I don't know why. I guess because it's a small town. They think, oh, maybe Ed's just forgot or he's simple or whatever. He doesn't know what happened fully. I'm sure nothing bad happened. So they just kind of write it up as it was an accident. He got overwhelmed by the flames.
Yeah, the flames it was Henry's idea. And yeah, I got out and he wasn't able to.
Yeah. And so finally, at the very last, it's just him and Mama, which is what he's wanted in his entire life. He's very happy.
It was one thing when he took the police out to help try to find. It was interesting because he's like, oh, that's weird. You didn't know where your brother left. You got separated and you got out, but you led us right to the body. That's so weird. He's like,
yeah, you said he got lost in the flames and you ran and you don't know where he was, but then you were like, there he is. Oh yeah, I remember now.
Yeah, he's like, oh yeah, that is interesting. Things just happen that way sometimes, huh?
Yeah, and then the cops are like, I guess so.
I guess so.
Sometimes when police do stuff, you're like, wow, you're really giving the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
Like none of your detective skills are tingling in the back of your neck here at all. Like, I mean, come on. It's not that hard to figure out if someone, and you might not be able to prove back then that he did it, with like evidence. Like, there's no DNA or any of that shit, but like for sure it's suspicious.
It's weird.
Why didn't you at least question him for real or whatever about it? So but like I said, now he's finally got what he wanted for his whole life: his mama and him.
His mama,
just them together. So a weird thing that happens right after Henry died is the mom. He was happy, but then the mom fell ill fairly quickly after that. So instead of being like the old battle axe or whatever that just always being a mean and a bitch or whatever, like she now had to rely on him for stuff. So in a weird way, it's like he got to be closer to her than he would have if she was not injured, because he had to help her bathe and things. So that's probably only being creepier for like increasing his creep level is like it's feeding into his like neuroses about his mom. Or like his like she needs me. I'm here to help her, but it means I also get to see her naked, which of course is a big turn on for Ed.
It's the only, the only
naked woman he's seen except
so.
those reproductive pictures or whatever from the science diagrams, which I'm sure they were like, Satan, they should not know what women look like. So, but yeah, and like you said, there is a nudity and stuff in this book. So when they show him helping his mom out, she is naked and it is creepy and weird, and he's very creepy and weird because she's like pulling her shirt over her head so she can't see him, but he's like checking
he's like
around.
Looking around.
He's very creepily looking at her. And so then he hears about the Nuremberg Trials, because this is right after World War II, and finds out about these atrocities that happened where people were made, their skin were made into things like lamps and upholstery and things for people's houses. Or not people's houses, but certain people's houses, and bars of soap made out of people fat and things like that. So he finds out that, hey, you can. It's not just animals you can use. You can make lampshades out of people.
You can do a lot of stuff with the human body. That's
that's very interesting. Good to know.
Mental note. Yeah,
good to know.
Good to know.
Just put that in the back of my mind. Never think about it until later. Then. Wait.
Well, I was just gonna say, his mom gets a little better now. She's able to she's basically able to walk again a bit, and So she kind of reverts back to being mean to him, even though he took care of her for like was it a couple months or.
Yeah, it was a while.
Okay.
I think because this is after the war, so 1944, the brother dies, and then it's got to be 46 or 47.
Okay, so it was a couple years. Pardon me.
So, a couple years he was taking care of her, and then there's one day where they go over to this couple's house. I can't remember why they go over there, but they're going over there to ask for like help or something. And the guy at this place, first off, he's with I think it's a prostitute. I don't think it's his wife. I'm not sure if it's.
I thought it was a daughter. It made me feel. Like,
okay, I wasn't sure because she like ran out in a robe, so I wasn't sure. But I can't tell because the mom was just like whores, so they could just be regular people.
Yeah.
The mom is just calling whores, but like because the lady runs out and the guy has a puppy and a bat, and he's like, "This fucking dog."
That's the last time I told. It's a puppy.
Yeah,
it is still learning.
And
good Lord,
he beats this dog to death. They don't show it.
Thank goodness.
He shows a lot of other stuff. So,
he does.
He could have shown this, but, I always think it's funny when it's like how we cannot see a dog die. But, I mean, we'll see a human get whatever in this.
That's different.
It's different. I think it's funny in a weird, like, thing in humans that we're like, I'm fine seeing a dead body. But don't you goddamn hurt that puppy.
It's seriously. In a movie, if you show me a dead body, I'm like, oh, gross. Oh, that's horrible. But you don't even have to show a dog like actually getting hurt. All you got to hear is that dog go, Arr! And I'm like, oh my god, no, poor dog. You are too. Don't even. I know.
No way. I'm like, yeah, that dog deserved it. But so anyway, the mom sees this with Ed as they're driving up to like ask for help or something. I think like they needed something done with their car. And
yeah.
Like, hey, he needs to work on it. So they were going to bring it to his house, and he killed this dog in front of them. And then like the woman was sitting there like kind of not fully clothed. So the mom was like, "Hold her," or whatever, and that just like made everything. The whole situation made her like freak out, and she basically had like a stroke.
Yeah.
And like so she dies that day in his arms, as she's like getting out of the truck.
Mama, no.
Yeah. So then they have the funeral for her, and he finds out another thing that they do is seal them up with concrete now.
Yeah, that's a new thing they just started because daddy didn't get buried that way, but Mama is getting in a wooden.
And he's taking notes on this shit.
Yeah,
like, he's like, why we got the concrete there? He's like, well, your mama wanted the concrete. It helps preserve her or whatever. And keep in mind, the mom is the one who paid for all this because she's the one who actually owns everything. So she was like, I want the concrete, and maybe the concrete was something that could have been done before for the dad, but she's like, what's the cheapest pine box you got? Like,
yeah, basically.
Yeah, we don't care about this motherfucker, so whatever.
He died a fool. He died on a full day. Yeah. He's gonna go to the ground a fool.
Exactly. But now the mom is dead. She died. 1945 is when she died. So I guess it's literally like right after. I didn't know when the Nuremberg Trials started, so I assumed they were like a year after or something. But apparently soon after World War II ended, because 1945 is when she died. 44 is when the son died. When Henry died. Yeah. So it was a year of taking care of her. So so now it's just him in this big house. And now we get, fucking Russian satellites are launching. We get Sputniks.
The space race.
Space race happens, and everybody's scared of that stuff, and new things like washing machines, and they're helping women out with vacuums and all kinds of stuff.
What every good wife needs. A vacuum, yeah. They has all these
I will
ads.
say, if you were a woman back then and you had to do the housework anyway, because that's what was expected of you or whatever per society, I would rather have a washing machine and a vacuum than me pick up the entire floor by hand or whatever,
or washing clothes in like the sink and a bucket, and then hanging out like no.
So I will say it's probably made it better for them, even though it's kind of sexist now to think about that or whatever. Hopefully they at least got a little respite or whatever. And so, because that's what ended up this might be incorrect now, I don't know, or from what I learned, but I believe this is why like they got all these machines that could help them, and then they had time during the day, and then they were like, I want to work, or I want to do things with my life.
Oh, you're saying like,
and then it led to them being able to.
I wouldn't be surprised if that was like part of a catalyst. Like I don't think.
Well, because if you think about it, if I got to work all day on these things, I'm not thinking about going to school.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking about, hey, what can I do with my free time?
Or if you are, but you don't have enough free time to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why now you have more free time, which led to like the idea that, hey, I could work at least part time or get a degree or things I want to do with my life besides cooking and cleaning. So, ovens and shit help that out, I think.
So what you're saying is you're welcome? No, that's horrible.
I'm what?
What you're saying is you're welcome?
Yes.
Ladies?
I'm saying science. All right?
No, that's horrible. We're kidding. We're not.
John's kidding. But anyway, but in this whole time, he, like we said, he's still reading, these salacious magazines that are, I guess at this time, getting more and more. I guess this is around the time they would, like Playboy would start coming out now and things like that. So you're
definitely getting more risque,
more salacious, more risque things. I don't know if you ever read Playboy, and they don't have that in this book, but he's reading things like The Wench and the Headhunters. So he's getting ideas of like, oh, you can shrink a head by drying it out and weird stuff or whatever.
Interesting.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe I should try that. Then we see like when we cut to this new period in his life, because the book kind of skips maybe a couple years where he was just sad or lonely.
And now it's 1957 now.
Yeah, so he's eating cereal in the morning, reading this, The Wench and the Headhunters, and he's circled obituaries in the paper, so he knows fresh bodies that are out. He's eating cereal, like I said, or beans or something, out of a bowl.
It's a weird looking bowl.
If you look at it, you're like, oh, that's a really chipped porcelain bowl or something. It's the top of a skull. It's someone's skull he's eating out of. So there's that, and then he's got like dentures and weird things. I think the dentures are also Red Dragon and Buffalo Bill based, I think.
Yeah.
I can't remember if he had dentures, but for sure Hannibal has dentures and also Red Dragon guy. I don't remember his name, but yeah, he's got dentures that he wears. So there's definitely some of that shit in there. So
yeah.
But yeah, and then he's leaving for the day. He picks up some 22s, meaning caliber shells. So as far as firearms,
puts them in his pocket.
Bullets. Yeah, he puts them in his pocket, and he walks out the door. And we see as he walks out the door, there is a mask of some sort that looks like a human face.
Yeah, it's a really human looking face, but like a mask you would put over your head. Okay, interesting.
Is it Halloween or what's going on?
What's going on?
So, then basically this is all on November 16th, 1957 is like the day that this all happened. So he, the sheriff comes to his house looking for him in the evening. Like, hey, Ed, where you at? He's not in his house. They like look in his, I guess, cellar area. And they're like, what'd you find? And they're like, oh, my God. And there's like a body upside down with ropes. They're throwing up. There's like, at first they just see like trash and garbage. And then they, the light. I can only imagine because I don't know if you remember what old flashlights looked like.
Oh, yeah.
If you watch old movies, like now we all have like LED fucking bright ass flashlights. They're like 10 billion lumens for like one diode of an LED or whatever. Yeah. And it only takes AA batteries or whatever. But back then it'd be like 8 D cell batteries.
Yeah, this huge, heavy.
Yeah, it weighs 20 pounds and the light goes 5 feet in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually probably, this time is probably less than that. So it's probably like 20 D cell batteries and the light is 2 feet in front of you or whatever. So I can only imagine how creepy this fucking cellar or barn is that they go in where they're like, I see like papers, stacks of newspapers, some weird toys, and then like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, because literally you're walking, you're like, oh, that's weird, there's a little puddle on the ground, and then holy shit.
Smells odd in here, it's like, oh, they run out, and this is like the sheriff and everything. They find the body of the kill that like, I guess, stopped his kills. So this woman's name was Bernice.
Bernice Ward.
Ward? Yeah. Warden, there you go. And she's a woman that like Ed had liked to talk to, I guess.
Yeah, she's a little older woman. She's in her late 50s.
He was let's say this, his type of woman, as you might expect from his love of his mother, was a older type of woman.
Yeah, an older motherly type of woman.
Yeah. So like he was always kind of infatuated with her, and apparently this one day he now he said he didn't know what happened. He forgot. He didn't remember. But obviously he took 22s there, and what ended up happening that day is she worked at a convenience store, or we'll call it like a hardware store for that time.
Yeah.
But at the hardware store there was a 22 rifle on the shelf, fairly common for back then. And he's like, "Hey, can I see that 22 shelf or that 22 rifle?" And she's like, "Sure." And she gives it to him. It was unboxed and everything. It was just open, and he had those shells in his pocket, and he loaded it and shot her in the head. So that is how she died. And but he's like, "I don't remember what happened." But everybody's like, "The last person I saw going there was Ed." "Oh yeah, that was totally Ed. Ed was there. I saw his car drive away. No problem." So that's like basically he did not hide.
Yeah, he went in to get some antifreeze, if I remember correctly. Oh, okay. Because they talked to several people, because he's got some next door neighbors, and they're like, "Oh yeah, Ed, he was here earlier, but then he went to the store." Like, oh, he's just doing his normal day thing,
his normal shit or whatever.
Simple old Ed.
Well, and then he came home and just went into the barn, and that was it or whatever. Like, and what they didn't know is that he had hung up and dressed her body like a deer or whatever, meaning you remove all the internal organs and everything, and then had cut off the head, and then was preparing for skinning or whatever the hell he was going to do. So weird shit like that, and then they search his property more. They find, like we said, the skull bowl. They find the mat. It's very much like, if you've ever seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which you should, it's a good horror movie.
Definitely.
But if you ever watch the original movie, inside the house, or even the remake, and some people we know maybe even be scareder of the remake than the
for some reason
the 2000s remake.
Even though the original definitely it has a lot more feel of being kind of like someone went along with them and filmed this whole thing,
right?
So it actually seems a little creepier. For some reason, there are some people who I might be married to that were like, "Oh, the new one was so scary."
Yeah, I was like, "Really?"
the
new one had Jessica Biel, and that was fine.
yeah, Arlie Ermy, and I was like, "Okay, well, I don't know." Well, I was not as. I mean, it's fun, but
if anything, like I said, I was like, I didn't really remember how hot Jessica Biel was. But yeah, so. Anyway, they find in his house. Let me see. I'll read from the book so that we get a full accounting. It says the inventory of human remains became staggering. It said they included a box of noses, a chair upholstered in human flesh, so like the seat of it was nailed human skin down to it. A lampshade and wastebasket and drum, all made of human skin. So he made drums.
A belt made out of nipples.
Yeah, a nipple belt. So they're all sewn together. Nipple belt.
Nipple belt.
Interesting. A pull window shade decorated with a pair of woman's lips, so he was able to remove lips
and then sew them back together as a pull
I think
chain.
he just removed them all at one. Maybe, I don't know.
I assume he put him through, and I don't know.
Fuck if I know. I'm not a weird creep.
I didn't look. We didn't go that hard into how did he do those things?
Yeah,
it's
sorry
fucking
about that.
Creepy and disgusting.
Yeah, if you feel so inclined, go read whatever to figure that out. So, a knife with a bone handle and a sheath made from skin. Skulls on the bedposts of his bed. 4 face masks hanging on the wall that were made from humans.
I was like, and by face masks we mean faces of people he wore as masks.
Yes, and then 5 more face masks in bags of people's faces. So if you're keeping track, that's 9 humans at least that are dead and already skinned here, and then the one that he murdered that day, and that's what they know so far. And then you have how many noses?
Dozens.
Each one of those is unique.
Yeah. They found a shoebox full of female genitalia.
Yes. Oh, yeah, it says, oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, it says, wow, this is really graphic. Some of the vaginas in the box were dried with salts. One was daubed with silver paint and trimmed with red ribbon. One was so fresh it had clearly been newly exercised, so it's probably the the woman of that day or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
Bernice, maybe.
Yeah, Bernice. Yeah.
That's horrible.
And it says the rest of Bernice Warden's scattered remains were quickly found. Her heart was in a plastic bag by the potbelly stove. Her liver was not documented, and her internal organs like intestines and stuff were found wrapped in newspaper, hidden and bundled in an old suit, as you do.
Yeah.
Keep it
I'll
fresh.
just save that for later. Put that in my
Yeah. And then they found her head was found in a burlap sack between two old mattresses in the corner of the summer kitchen. 2 bent nails connected by string had been stuck in the ears as if to hang it. So, yeah, that's weird. And then, maybe possibly the creepiest thing, Deputy Arnold Fritz stumbled upon a moth-eaten horsehide robe crumbled behind a kitchen door, and wrapped in the robe was a brown paper bag. And later in life, Deputy Fritz would look back and wonder what possessed him to put his hand in that bag. But when his hand closed around a clump of hair, he withdrew it, and the mystery of what was in that bag, or the mystery that had plagued the town for 3 years, was finally solved. Mary Hogan.
This is a girl that had gone missing for several years.
Yes.
And nobody could ever find her.
Yeah, they just thought she left. But no, she was apparently abducted by Ed and killed and skinned. And he made a suit out of her. He made legs. And when I say, like, out of her, like, he included everything. So, like, it was just basically, he wanted to look like a naked older woman or whatever. Like, he wanted to be in his mother, we'll say.
Yeah, that was the head. And then, they found a whole skin suit.
Yeah, it looks like a, like an undershirt with no sleeves, but it was, it has the breasts and the stomach and everything.
Yeah, and then it looked like there was basically skin pants. He would pull up over himself.
Yes, and yeah, so that's super fucking creepy.
Yeah, and part of this too is like when they went, like that was all like mostly the barn, and then when they went to the house, they found out the house hadn't had electricity apparently for like years, and like a lot of it was dusty and stuff. So he basically was just living out in the barn. Right. With all of his body parts and stuff.
Right. Not only that though, like he didn't want to disturb like his mom's areas.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
So that's
that was
like
part of it.
It was like not. It wasn't just that he didn't want to live in the house. It was like, well, that's mom. Mama lives there, so don't want to do that. Yeah. Basically, and then also they found a boarded up door. And after the things they'd already discovered, it was hard for them to imagine what horrors lay behind it. And that was just Augustus' bedroom that he had like.
Yeah, he just boarded off
just to like keep sacred or whatever. So yeah, then they immediately obviously questioned him, and they're like, "What the fuck?" Like they're just like freaking the fuck out, like, "What the hell?"
Yeah, think about this.
This is our neighbor,
small little like. Kind of like doo doo boo, like, hey, how are you doing, Jim? Okay, whatever.
Everybody knows each other.
Yeah, we're talking, less than like 10,000 people.
Everybody here has known Ed since he was a little boy.
Yeah, so and everybody thinks of like, oh, that's just he a little slow. He's just easygoing, simple Ed. Like, never have to worry about him.
He's a good guy. He helps us out, like with stuff like odd jobs every now and then. He keeps to himself, but. Lots of people keep to themselves.
And these are, again, small town police. Yeah, some missing people, maybe a murder here or there. But, nothing that probably out of the order that they have never seen before. And then they walk into this barn and find all of this stuff. Like, I cannot imagine being just like, being a police officer, from a small town, again, like you said, knowing everybody, like, it's simple. You don't really have to deal normally with anything crazy. Someone's fighting again. Someone's cow got out. Oh, they found a body one day, 3 years ago. That sucked. Someone went missing. And then, bam, like, I don't know, like, 9 faces of people.
Yeah, just what the fuck? In the 50s, though, so the people were, like, vomiting. Like, yeah. Just like, what the fuck? So, yeah, this is, like.
Exactly. When we have the social media and movies and all of this stuff now that kind of desensitizes us a little bit.
Imagine you've never seen anything other than a book that maybe, like, you've read Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
And that's the most intense murder mystery you've ever read. And now you're finding a skin suit of your neighbor who disappeared 3 years ago, who was apparently killed and worn by your other neighbor that you thought you knew for childhood to now or whatever.
Yeah.
That is like mind-blowingly crazy. And so they break in, or like they bust into the police station where it's being held, and they start questioning him. And from what I remember, he's just like, I don't remember nothing.
Yeah, at first he's like, I don't remember.
And so they grill him, and then we kind of go away from that, and we get to what it was like right after what his life was like right after his mom died, like what led to this kind of situation. So basically, he is sad his mom died. He's lonely in the house. He tries to live there, but can't. He's still plagued by like his mom's. I don't know if it's her talking to him in his head, or if it's just like, he's just gone insane with his mom's rhetoric or whatever.
Yeah.
He'll like sit there and be like, I'm gonna cut off your dick or whatever, and he's talking to himself, but like kind of like through as if he was his mom,
but holding a bare scissors over his penis.
Yeah. And then he decides in that moment before he's so sad and whatever that he sees like the obituaries. He's like, wait a second. I think I could just dig her up and I'll have mom back, kind of thing. So I think he dug her up at first just to have mom be in the house, And then he was like, what I could do? I could skin her and wear mom around the house. So mom's actually moving around and I get to see mom in the mirrors and stuff. So he, skinned mom and wore her around. This is like the creepiest part. I think you had this as like an image you sent me of like a creepy image of it, but when he's putting lipstick on the face of the mom he's wearing or whatever. So and then like because he did this with his moms, he's like, okay, I can do this to multiple women and multiple bodies.
Yeah,
so.
and he starts grave robbing because he digs up a woman named Eleanor Adams. Right. When he finds it's like a fresh obituary.
Yeah, I think he's just going by the obituaries at that point.
Yeah, and he digs it up and brings it home and starts tinkering and figuring out how to do stuff with it.
Another thing they show real quick before that he doesn't show it at this moment. I think maybe because it's too gross or something. But so he digs up his mom and then puts her in her bed. And then it just shows him staring there looking at her.
Oh, yeah.
With her legs, splayed open. And he's naked. And I'm like, oh, God. So that definitely fucked his dead mom's corpse.
I'm sure.
Yeah. So, I'm just, I just want to say that because that was, there's a lot of really creepy panels in this. That's one of them. The one where he's putting lipstick on a face that he's wearing is creepy. Very, very,
very creepy.
Very... Texas Chainsaw Mask, very Leatherface.
Yeah, exactly. The end, the Leatherface mask, the all dolled up one.
And then they kind of show how he went about grave robbing and all that stuff, and just where he got his ideas for what he would make. He found out. Oh, he read in one of those headhunter magazines, you can make a drum out of human skin. And he's like, I'll try that. So he would just get ideas from the magazines he was reading, the fiction, and then. He would apparently, and this is one of the creepiest drawings in this as well, he would wear his mom, or the suit he was making out of, I don't know if the suit was just his mom.
I think it was multiple people.
Multiple women put together, kind of like Buffalo Bill.
Yeah.
But he would wear that suit at night, I think during full moon specifically, and dance or do some kind of movements in the yard. And it's fucking creepy.
Yeah.
There's a picture of him wearing the suit. He's naked inside of it, but there's the suit of the women's suit he made, and people apparently his neighbors would say yeah, we would see a woman dancing in his yard sometimes. We just thought it's fucking weird or something.
That's over there. That's their business.
You know, who am I? All right, we all got weird shit going on, but yeah, that's what someone said that.
I like pickled pig's feet.
The problem is this is all after the fact. Like no one's. I don't like pig's feet.
No. That's I was saying. Like we all got weird stuff. I like pickled pig's feet. That's weird. Yeah. Anyway, that's like what. That's like the worst weird thing.
You know, it's just the same thing.
Yeah,
everybody's got a weird thing.
I'm glad you caught it.
Tomato.
Yeah,
you know, everybody's got their thing, and so yeah. Anyway, I don't even know what I was fucking gonna say. Yeah, but I was gonna say yeah, just like people. I think a lot of people, you know, hear what he did, and then they would be like, "Oh yeah, I saw that," to be like, be part of the topic or whatever. You know, be included in the conversation.
Oh, yeah, I saw him dancing.
Yeah, and then you get like an interview with a newspaper, and that made you feel good or whatever. So I think a lot of people, I think in the 50s, if you saw a naked old woman dancing in a yard and you knew that his mom was dead and everything, you'd be like, "What the fuck? Like, who is that? Or are they okay? Or what's going on?" You know, I think you would spread that rumor around your small town. So I think people would have heard Ed's got a naked woman dancing around his yard all the time or whatever. And that would be definitely getting around the small town. So the fact that it only happened after the fact, after those details got released, tells me it's probably fake and people didn't really see that until after it. But they said they did. So, yeah. But then, you know, of course, everybody, you know, with the newspaper hype and everything, all reporters flood the town, and this is like the biggest thing ever. You know, it's right after the war. It's got, you know, it's salacious enough.
Yeah.
It's like perfect for like newspapers and everything. So, it becomes like a big story.
Yeah.
And they flood the town, and like I said, everybody's just like, "Oh yeah, he was always a weird boy." You know, like I always thought something was up with his mom and everything. Everybody's got something to say now. That's you know, that it happened or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
No one thought anything was weird at the time though. So yeah.
And we find out that Mary worked at like a diner or something, Mary Hogan, and he killed her, obviously.
Yeah.
And then we've kind of seen more of him, like so I guess he's with his neighbors he talks with sometimes, and he's like, "Oh man, I think I'm gonna go talk to Bernice today again at the what did you say we were gonna call it? Convenience or hardware store. Yeah, like, oh yeah, he's like, he apparently even said sometimes like, "Oh yeah, she looking nice and plump," and it's like, how do you like? That's what. Yeah, these are like some accounts, and but just the way like,
but that's like, no, what I mean is that's like what Buffalo Bill literally says. He's like, "Was she a big fat woman? Like, what size do you wear?" That's what he would always ask the women before he killed them. Like, "Are you a 14?"
14, that's right.
It's like, why?
But then there was one of the weird thing of, and I think this was part of that, is that when they did the autopsy of Bernice, that there was a bunch of like black dust and dirt on the bottom of her feet. So I guess that he, like, not only was he like in suits wearing it, but he was also dancing with some of the dead bodies.
Yes.
So
as you do.
Yeah, there's just so many like weird, grotesque things, unimaginable, basically, that he was doing with all of these bodies.
Yes. And so basically from there, you know, he starts getting questioned by the cops, and he's very coy. They don't know if it's because he's like withholding on purpose, or if he is too slow to remember certain things or whatever, because of course they're kind of judgmental on that. But like he will reveal some things enough so that he gets, you know, brought up on charges of stuff or whatever. And then there's one specific scene that really freaked me out. Very, very much so. There's a scene where he's getting questioned by the cops, and they're like, the cop says, "Eddie, do you remember having attempted intercourse with Miss Warden's body when you had it in your house?" So Bernice, this is literally like the day of the murder, right?
Yeah.
Because they came to his house at 7:45 or whatever. So it's between 10 a.m. or whatever and 7:45 this happened. So he said, "Well, I believe I did try, but I couldn't." And And then he's like, what do you mean couldn't? Like, you had erectile dysfunction? He's like, yeah, that's what I couldn't, finish it or whatever. He's like, okay. And then I don't know if Eric Powell, he decided to show this just because obviously it was something important, because he goes away from the questioning pattern of drawing, and he shows, him wearing his mom's mask. He's having sex with a dead body in the shadows. You can't see who it is.
Yeah.
It's from the side or whatever. It's the bed with the skull adorned bedpost.
Bedpost, yeah.
This is what happened. So he's thinking about it. Look, he says, I couldn't have sex with Bernice that day. Then he says, what about Mary Hogan? And then that's what we see is it cuts to that day with Mary, or the time with Mary Hogan, which she might have been dead for a long time, just sitting on that bed or whatever. So
yeah,
because she was just missing for a while. He's like, did you have intercourse with her? And there's a scene of him, like his face up close, finishing inside in there, and it was the creepiest fucking scene with the mask of his mom on. It is the creepiest fucking scene I've ever seen in a comic, I think. So yeah, beware. Reading this, there's some really fucked up stuff in it. But then he lies and says, no, I don't believe I tried anything weird with her. But yeah, like basically they know he did or whatever. So I'm guessing. They must know, or else he wouldn't have drawn it in this book, I'm assuming. Or either that or he just wanted to be real creepy. But like we said, he's getting questioned by the police and all the newspapers and paparazzi are in town and everything. And someone, before they have a big auction on his house, because everybody's now going to try to get a piece of this murder house or whatever and sell it, and have all these out-of-towners come and try to like collect fucking murder memorabilia. Yeah. Someone burns down his house. It is implied that it is the sheriff, but
because apparently the sheriff is Bernice's son.
Oh, I didn't put that together.
Yeah, I think it's the sheriff or the deputy sheriff.
Yes, no, you're right. It says it's Frank Warden. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was Bernice's son. So he's like, fuck everybody going through here. So, and then basically, we get like who knows how many people were in that house, like underneath, buried in the ground and stuff. So that's the only problem with that. Like, yes, you would have had some weird memorabilia, but they potentially could have. I mean, I guess you could still look underground or shoot with X-ray, things into the ground to see if there's bones or whatever.
Yeah, especially nowadays.
But they didn't at that time.
At the time, well, so when he gets questioned, they have someone from the state come, and at first he's declared basically mentally insane. Yeah, and he's not able to stand trial.
Yeah, he was deemed unable to stand trial.
Unable to stand trial, pardon me.
Because of insanity. So he doesn't get a trial at all. They just throw him in a mental institution. So, time flies. Psycho comes out. Things come out. We cut to 1968 when now he is able to go on trial. They say the doctors are like, yeah, he's fine now to go on trial. So he goes on trial, and he's like, he does this whole, he looks even more innocent now, or not innocent to people, but he looks as a person. His outside look, he's got his lazy eye, but he's fatter now. He looks more like a nice old man or whatever. And years have gone by, 10 years. So we're like, okay, people probably wherever he's getting tried might not remember what happened, everything. And all that. I'm sure they know some of it, but he just starts off kind of well, I think I remember some stuff. I'm just an old man now, and I'm perfectly capable of living my life. I would never do nothing like that again. And so then in the middle of this trial, they're because I think it's a trial to see if he's fit now to stand trial. And they say the prosecutor comes up and he's like, well, Ed, can you look at these photos just to tell me what your reaction is to these photos? And he's like, yeah, sure, I'll look at them. And this is a really creepy scene too, is he starts looking at the photos and they're bondage, or I think they're photos of his barn, like what they found of Bernice hanging, and how she was hanging with the ropes tied to her arms, and every the way she was dressed up, and he just starts like drooling. He's like, let's see.
Yeah. Oh gosh, that was so gross.
I know what they portray. I don't remember seeing this. And he just gets super creepy. And it says Ed ogled the photos for nearly 5 minutes, like they were pornography. Those in attendance in this trial were deeply disturbed. So he was automatically like, oh my God.
Oh God, I forgot about this.
Yeah. And so basically the judge was like, you are still insane. You get to go back. You get to go back to.
Yeah, he gets the maximum security hospital, basically.
Yeah, basically is what he gets. So, and then he stays there until he dies, basically.
Well, he petitioned in '74 to release. He said he's fully covered from his mental health, but they're like, no,
just in
his
case.
quest is denied.
Yeah, but they go on to say that basically this Ed Gein story was like the turning point in horror movies, because before this you had like Attack of the Giant Ants, Attack of the Martian Spiders, People from Mars. That's what like scary movies were about. Plan 9 from Outer Space or whatever, right? And then after the Ed Gein story, now you have Psycho, Texas Chainsaw, Silence of the Lambs. You have all these fucked up stories happening now. Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. You have all these weird fucked up stories. So the 70s slashers and all that stuff. You have these things happening, and there's basically he ties it directly to Ed Gein, and that happening is what kind of brought the America's public consciousness to the horrors of like serial killers or slasher killers or things. So and that's pretty much how it ends. It says that he died of
cancer
at age 77 in 1984.
Mm-hmm.
So before I was born, and he's now in a grave. He lies in an unmarked grave beside his mother.
Yeah.
So
I do want to say, so they from the body parts they found, and they did find, that's one thing they realized, is they were finding like formaldehyde residue on body parts. And
on some of them.
On some of them, yeah. So like he obviously was able to find and get access to some of this stuff. But and the sheriff had distinct memories of things smelling like embalming fluid. But apparently he had been going to dig graves since 47. Never took him but never like took like whole bodies until 50. But he said he basically at minimum took 40 bodies from grave digging. So that's 40 people that he dug up. And
who knows how many drifters or weird of people that weren't from the town that he killed.
And that was one of the things when they did do some excavation at his place, and they did find remains.
Because he only confessed to Mary and Bernice eventually, and then he said he dug up the rest, like the 40 you're talking about. But then, like you said, some of them had formaldehyde smell. But then there were ones that weren't preserved by formaldehyde. So.
Exactly, and so when they were able to do some excavation, they found remains. I think they said of for sure different parts that they were able to put to at least another like 10 people. So yeah, and they're not able to tell, but I mean at that point, it's like we know he's messed up. We know we definitely know he probably killed his brother at a younger age too.
We know he's definitely killed people.
So it's not out of the realm of possibilities.
That he killed much more people. We just don't know about it. So so that is this book. I will say this actually was a Kickstarter this year that luckily I was going to get the Kickstarter version, but I didn't have the money at the time, and then Eric Powell said I'm going to release it in like comic book stores later. So it's like, okay, I'll just wait for that, I guess. And so luckily he did. It is $29.99, so it's a little pricey, but the book is so good and it's an independent book, so I'm willing to pay
directly support
for something like that. You're directly. It's from his press, his Albatross. So like he is getting all the money or whatever. So there's no like weird middleman or something. So yeah, I would highly recommend picking this book up if you like true crime. If you want to read a very creepy story, and just have it on your shelf for whenever you feel like reading a creepy story.
And I the title and knowing and like that name is definitely synonymous now. So like, hey, your friends over like what is that book?
Yeah,
did you hear what Ed Gein done?
Yeah. And so I really really enjoyed this book. But John, tell me, what did you think of this book? What would you rate it?
I really liked it as well. Like I said, I have that little bit of extra when it comes to true crime and serial killers from my dad. And so I guess naturally I have a little bit of like, I came around to being like, oh, okay, this is really an interesting like look into like things that happen in society and like how that kind of like you said, like how this like spawned other things
right.
that we know. And like they're crazy that there are things that we enjoy from that spawn from this of
or
being,
nightmares, like
or a thing that gave us nightmares that spawned from a legitimately horrible person and
story,
like actions. So it's wild to think about that.
Yeah.
So I really did like this. I learned some things in this. Yeah, like I said, I didn't know he had a brother, and
I loved all the stuff about his like early family life, like how he got the way he was, kind of thing.
Yeah, so this was really cool. I liked Eric Powell's art is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's super fucked up and creepy when it needs to be.
It's not black and white. It's like greenish gray.
Greenish gray, yeah.
There's a green in the gray that gives it like a weird, deathly, like spooky.
That's a perfect, deathly, very, very like I can't think.
Like the color of skin when you're dead. like that kind of green. You're like, oh, like it's a weird palish green or whatever. So like he puts that in the book. He also, I mean, that's kind of his style anyway, because Goon has that kind of
green
That's
too. Right.
It is color as well, though. So that's like what the zombies, they look like that in that book. So, but this is kind of like this is definitely up his alley. I would say this is definitely the creepiest thing he's ever done, because some of those drawings, I was like, how do you draw that? How do you sit there and draw a picture of a man, especially knowing that this is real, a man, violating a corpse in his mom's mask?
Yeah.
How do you draw him dancing in the moonlight?
All of the
woman's skin,
the masks that are hanging from hooks or on the wall and stuff in this, and like just they're very like they're cartoony, but they're still very
cartoony in a way that shows how fucked up it is. Like, it's not like Peanuts.
So
it's like it's to show, like they make it's cartoony when Ed Gein is like the hapless, town idiot or whatever.
Yeah.
It's cartoony like that, like, hey, I'm just a nice guy. And then but then when he's sitting there looking at those pictures in the courtroom, it's also cartoony and it just looks creepy.
It's creepy as fuck.
It basically just gives like hyperbole to the emotions.
Yeah.
That's what the cartooniness does. So it doesn't make it lighthearted or anything, I don't think. I didn't laugh or anything when I was reading this book. So definitely, you're not looking at that, like, not cartoony like that or anything. So it's not like, you're like eyes popping out of, eye holes or anything like that. But it's just like a little bit of exaggeration in the eyebrows and the facial expressions that just show the reader more emotion, or maybe what's behind Ed Gein's eyes and his brain, like what he's thinking, things like that.
Yeah,
that's what the cartooniness is for. So, what would you give this one, John?
With everything being said, I would probably. I'm struggling to. I'm gonna give it a 9. It is fantastic. It was a great read. It if you're thinking about like, oh, I want to revisit, like I could revisit it too.
Yes, for sure.
I might even own it. Like it was really good. Yeah.
Yeah, I would give this one. I would give this one a 10. Now that I think about it, I'm going to give it a 10.
Wow.
I'm going to give this one a 10.
A Matt Hansen 10.
Yeah, because, one, it is a single thing. Like,
that's true.
Give this to someone and go, here you go, read this book. And they will go like, you don't have to like comics or anything. It's perfectly explainable. Just here, you read this book, and they go, whoa, shit. I didn't, especially if they like true crime. You could get someone into the hobby with this book, Whereas some of the other true crime books we read, like Green River Killer, you could give them that, but the art's not as intelligible.
Yeah.
Some of it's scratchier or just stylized or whatever. This is so well drawn that like there's no, you don't misunderstand anything, you know.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Of all the true crime ones we've done, like the H.H. Holmes and the Axeman, like the art's good in those, but it definitely is like it's more of a like retelling and like in a cartoon style.
Yeah,
where this very much has like we said, like it's cartoony when it needs to be, but then it's like it definitely conveys the creepy, grotesque, unspeakable, shit that he did.
Yes, so. I think this is like one of Eric Powell's put that on his thing as like masterpiece.
Yeah,
like I really do think it is. I was thinking about like a 9 or 9.5, but then I'm like, I mean, the fact that you could just give this to anybody, it's so, if you like true crime, it is enjoyable. It is very much like, what the fuck? It is also disturbing in a way that you wouldn't necessarily think a comic could be. Because I mean, like, you think it's the way that he draws the like I said, the cartooniness makes it creepier.
Yeah.
When he's wearing his mom's face, like it makes it creepier, which is hard to do. Like I think that is what it's hard to do in a comic, is make something creepier than a real life thing or whatever, or something they could see on TV. This captures that. I think this fully captures those moments where you're like, oh my God, like that is so fucking creepy and gross and weird. And like I said, I don't know how he drew some of these panels and pages like and was like, I'm gonna go to sleep tonight, like good job, now put my pencil down and then I'm gonna go to sleep. Like I don't see how you could do that, but he apparently did. I don't know, he didn't talk about how much it affected him writing this book or anything that I've seen yet, but if he ever does, I would like to know, like if he had a hard time doing something. So but yeah, 10. This is a 10. This is an independent, crowd-funded Kickstarter book that made enough that there was enough demand that he figured, I'm going to release it just in time for Halloween. It's a good Halloween gift to a friend, and it brings back, it shows you where all your, it ties it into our real life, all the horror movies that we like or whatever, and then we talk about like, holy shit, the people that gave you nightmares, like Silence of the Lambs is something that gives lots of people nightmares, and a lot of that shit is from
this, yeah.
So
that's true.
Like I said, like everything in Red Dragon, the stuff that guy goes through to make him become the serial killer is literally in this book. So, I'm gonna give this a 10. You're gonna give it a 9. It's a very good book. And next week we're gonna lighten it up a little bit since we went super heavy with the first book here.
We're starting off heavy in October.
Yeah.
So now we're gonna it's still spooky Halloween.
Yeah, it's still Halloween. But we're going with Jason versus Freddy versus Ash. If you know what we're talking about, you're probably excited. If you don't, that would be Jason Voorhees of the Friday the 13th saga or series or whatever versus Freddy Krueger from the Nightmare on Elm Street series, and then Ashley Williams, I think is his name.
Yep.
From
The Evil
Dead. And this is a Wildstorm book that came out when I worked at the comic book store. I believe me and you both read it.
I think we both read it
at the time. And I don't have those issues anymore. And all of these things are out of print. I have tried my best to find all these horror comics, and all of them are out of print because they are not owned by those companies anymore. So they're in some limbo that I don't know where they're at. So we have procured them through special means that we will not talk about, and we will read them for your enjoyment next week. And with that, I'm going to say it now since we're at the end of the episode. We have decided, last year we did 13 episodes of Halloween. This year, for my sanity and time, John and I have decided to do the one-off miniseries. There's 7 or 6. I can't remember. It might be 6.
I think it's 6.
It's 6 one-off miniseries of the Jason franchise, like the Friday the 13th comic franchise. So these are like 1 to 2 issue miniseries that are like, one of them is called How I Spent My Summer Vacation with Jason. It's like one of them is Jason versus Jason X. One of them's Leatherface versus Jason. So, fun weird stories.
So we will have our Friday the 13th series.
Yes.
And we will bring you all Jason all month.
Yes.
Courtesy of Matt Hansen.
Thank you.
I'm excited for it.
I searched long and hard for these comics. I looked for them for a year.
Yeah.
In actual issues and could not find them.
I was like, I don't know how much we've gotten, because I know we've made jokes about things here and there, but Friday the 13th series is probably Matt's favorite.
Oh, I love it.
Horror movie series.
Probably. It is 100% my favorite series.
I don't know how many times I've watched them with him. I don't know how many times he's made his wife watch them with him.
My wife hates them. And I'm like, hey, guess what? Guess what time of year it is?
It's time of year again.
That's that time of the month again. We're watching Friday the 13th. We're watching all the Friday the 13th. So she has seen them. And
which one's your favorite? I don't remember.
Okay, so this is going to be a weird choice, and people are going to be like, you're wrong. I understand. The first one I ever saw was on TV. I was 8 years old. Or no, I'm sorry. I was 13 years old. It was part 8. It was Jason Takes Manhattan.
Takes Manhattan.
So that was the one I saw. It scared the shit out of me because my parents had left me like, you're old enough to be by yourself now. We're going to go on like vacation or something. Don't let the house burn down. And I was like, hell yeah, I get to stay up late and eat candy for breakfast or whatever and watch Friday the 13th movies on Sci-Fi Channel. So that came on. And I'm like, hell yeah. And I started watching. It was like midnight. And I was like, I'm not scared of this. And then I was like, the kids go, I'm terrified.
I'm terrified.
Yeah, so it scared the shit out of me. I really liked the aesthetic of it. I thought it was funny and weird. I realize now that it's a terrible movie, but I have a special place in my heart for Jason Takes Manhattan. So that is there. But I like all of them. There's only one. I mean, the one that everybody generally does not like is 5, The New Beginning. So that one is where Jason isn't even Jason. So, or Jason's not even in the movie. So that's kind of like every franchise has that one.
Yeah,
where it's like, oh, we're gonna replace it with a new killer. It's like, no, that one failed.
That's why I watch this. Yeah.
So that was that one. But I still enjoy watching all of them with people, especially with people, because it's just like mindless fun and you can watch it. I don't know. I like it. So yeah, we're going to read Jason versus Freddy versus Ash, or Freddy versus Ash versus Jason. I can't remember what the title is 100%, but one of those two.
We're reading that next week, and we're doing a Friday the 13th series all month.
Yes, exactly.
We'll have special episodes. You'll see them pop up. We don't have the official dates, but they're coming.
Well, they're coming. You'll see them. And if you guys have any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can email us at planestrains.comicbooks, all one word, at gmail.com.
Don't forget about our Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube channel for exclusive content. And we have our coffee up. That's right. You can get us a cup of coffee, KOFI. It's like Patreon. You can support us there. We're going to have our tiers come up soon once we see if how our support's going. But right now you can.
We have one tier up.
Yes, we have one tier. So yeah, you can get that. We're talking about some other stuff, like I said, as we see how people want to support. But if you'd like to, please go and get
us a cup of coffee.
Yeah, get us a cup of coffee there. And we'll have some cool perks as we get more people there.
Yep. So we'll see you guys on the next one.
On the next one.
Bye.